Are you sick of Lightning Spear? Do you want to blast monsters with a crossbow? This is a guide for Galvanic Shards and a Shockburst rounds Deadeye. This build is super fun with a fast and engaging playstyle. Mapping on this build feels amazing, but tier 4 bossing is a bit of a challenge unless you have an amazing weapon. You can get over 500k DPS on a budget and more than 3 million DPS if you can afford a high-end build. In this video I'll go over the gear, the build mechanics, gem setup, the passive tree and ascendancies, and I'll finish off with some tips for endgame build variations if you want to min-max. If you want to know how to level this build, just check out the description for a detailed leveling guide. We use Galvanic Shards for clearing hordes of monsters, but for single target bossing we use Shockburst rounds. This only works when the enemy is shocked, so we do that with Stormcaller Arrow. This allows us to scale shock duration and magnitude on a second weapon set. Okay, let's go over the items first. The most important is of course your weapon. You want to spend most of your currency on a good weapon. The best modifiers are high physical damage, flat lightning or physical, and weapon elemental damage for prefixes. Attack speed, crit chance, and plus level of projectile skills are best for your suffixes. Modifiers on other items to look out for are plus level of projectile skills on your amulet. You want at least +2 or +3. Obviously you want high movement speed on your boots. Flat lightning and physical damage on your rings is very good. Also in terms of rarity you want to aim for about 100% increased rarity of items found. Get a helmet with high energy shield if you have subterfuge mask anointed on your amulet. For your belt you can just focus on resistances, but make sure to get at least 2 charm slots. You can opt for an ingenuity or headhunter unique belt also if you're very rich. Use the rest of your gear to max out resistances and boost your defenses like evasion and energy shield. Don't worry if this wasn't clear. Just look in the POB link below for different build versions and examples of good items. If you enjoyed this guide, please subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna post solid Path of Exile builds every week for both PoE 1 and 2. Alright, so for flasks you want high recovery of life and mana. For charms you definitely want something to prevent freezes and stuns, those are both very annoying. The third one is optional, but I like the Black Cat, because getting shocked is often a one-way ticket to the beach. Right, let's talk jewels right now. You want at least one source of percentage mana on kill from a Sapphire. But if you have this on a weapon or ring, like flat recovery of mana, then you don't need this on a jewel. Then you definitely want lightning penetration, especially if you wear the unique Leopold's Applause gloves. Aim for a total of 125 combined lightning resistance reduction with your curse, exposure and lightning penetration. Aside from that you want any damage boosting modifiers like attack speed and projectile damage. Quality of life is also very useful with modifiers like crossbow reloading speed or projectile speed. Endgame you can also keep an eye out for good unique jewels like a Prism of Belief, Megalomaniac or an Against the Darkness Time Lost Diamond. Alright, skill gems. We're going to use Galvanic Shards for clearing in combination with Herald of Thunder. Now don't look at this number, what we're really interested in is the beam, right here. That's about 5 to 6 times higher. The same for Shockburst rounds. What we're really interested in is not this number, but the pulse, right here, when the enemy is shocked. Alright, for Galvanic Shards we're going to use Fork, this is very important for clearing. And then Lightning Infusion, Mobility for quality of life, Primal Armament for more damage, and the same as Martial Tempo. Now for Herald of Thunder we're going to use Innovate for even more damage on our skills. Execute, Long Shot, Reach, and Ambush. Then for Shockburst rounds, this is our single target. We're going to use Elemental Focus, Concentrated Effect, Fresh Clip, Close Combat, and Deliberation. Ideally, if you want to maximize damage, you would use Primal Armament and Martial Tempo instead of Close Combat and Deliberation. I just prefer not switching gems around. Unfortunately, you can use the support gems only once. We're going to shock the enemy with Stormcaller Arrow, and we're going to use Lasting Shock. Just going to hover over it, Stormcaller Arrow. The idea is that with this one, the bolt has a 500% more chance to shock. That's why we use it. We're going to use a bow in our second weapon set. We use Lasting Shock and Conduction, both to improve your shock. Then we're going to add lightning exposure, and we're going to boost this with strip away. And also going to use overcharge in case you want to have 6 links. Now I like this one because it increases the magnitude of your shock, but instead you're affected by shock too. But you can use a charm like the Black Cat to then become immune to shock. Now your defensive layer is Wind Dancer and Ghost Dance. Oh, oops. So Wind Dancer is very good. And we use that with Blind, Maim, Magnified Effect, and Arm's Length for even more knockback distance. And then for Ghost Dance we use Fast Forward and Precision for more accuracy. Emergency Reload is another button you can use to boost the damage on your single target. And I use Premeditation, Ingenuity, and Murderous Intent. Voltaic Mark is also used to even improve your shock even more on single target, and I use Persistence on there. Now you can also use Conductivity to even reduce the resistance of your target even more, and I use Heightened Curse and Focused Curse on here. Alright, the passive tree. Currently see my tree here. This is CI without crit. I've got a couple of other versions for you here also. So there's an early endgame version. Let's say this is more hybrid focused with evasion and energy shield. And then I've got a crit version for you right here if you got a good crit roll on your weapon. And then an attribute stacker that's even more expensive, and it uses some very expensive but very good jewels. Like for example the Against the Darkness Timeless Diamond. Alright, let's go back to my personal version right now. So first of all, Ascendancies. This is basically the same for all these versions. You definitely want to take Gathering Winds for Tailwind and Wind Ward. Tailwind is basically a non-negotiable. It's super useful because it gives you movement speed and skill speed. Then we're going to go Proximity Specialization. And you can either choose Far Shot or Point Blank. It depends on your preference. And then for Clearing, you want to take Endless Munitions. It adds 1 projectile to your Galvanic Shards. So now you shoot 7. So it gives about 15% more damage. For Shockburst rounds, however, you might want to take Eagle Eyes if you want to focus on single target bossing. Because the thing is that Galvanic Endless Munitions, it actually reduces your firing rate. There's a link to a video in the description that explains this a little bit better if you want to know about it. But basically, if you're doing a lot of bossing, you might want to go Eagle Eyes instead for your Shockburst rounds. Okay, let's have a look at the tree. You can see in the POB, and once again, it's linked in the description, so you can just have a look there, right? Here in red, these are my weapon set 1 skill points, and in green is my weapon set 2 skill points. In the beginning, when you are early end game, you probably want to go through here, right? Take all these points, but later on you want to save on skill points, passive points, so you go around here. Then you get a lot of things like movement speed, for example, here and here. These are very useful, and also here. And obviously you focus on damage. This is an evasion cluster, so you don't want to take that when you go CI. When you go CI, you also want to take Eternal Youth, because then your life flasks apply to your energy shield, and you don't have to wait when you get damaged to recharge energy. You can just click your life flask and get recharge. The rest of it is rather self-explanatory. However, one thing here, right, and that is I've got a From Nothing diamond, and it allows passives in the radius of Whispers of Doom to be connected. I use this in all my builds. It's super useful because you get some very high value nodes right here, like this one for Lightning Pen and Exposure, Shock Duration and Magnitude. So I've got this on my second weapon set, and Lightning Quick for a lot of cast speed, or attack speed I mean, and lightning damage. This CI version mainly focuses on stacking energy shield, obviously. All the skills are here displayed also, as well as the items for all the builds. A little explanation for other ones, for example the crit version. What's very important here is that in your items, you want a high crit chance roll. If you have a low crit chance roll on your item, then it's not really worth it to go crit, because you do get a marginal improvement in your damage, but you lose a lot of survivability. Whenever trading for items, you should always use this trade for items option in the POB. This is just the best way to find any good items. You always want to, before you do this, you want to select whatever skill you want to focus on. For example, Galvanic Shards. And you want to focus on the shards and the beam damage. And then when you click trade for items, you want to adjust the search weights. So for example, you want to focus on DPS and you don't want to include any modifiers related to your hit pool. So you turn that down. And then you click, for example, on there, and it gives you, right, it gives you a search function for a good weapon. All right. Also a little bit of notes here. For example, some information about your gloves, or, you know, skill gem notes, and some information about the endgame versions. So yeah, that's it. If you don't know how path of building works, there's a short guide to this in the description also. That's it from me for now. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you want to see follow-ups to these or other build guides and PoE content, then subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, please check out the description or post a comment down below. Thanks for watching.